again, this is Sandra Hart with Life Over 60. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today is going to be a little bit different type of video. It's sort of a getting to know me video and getting to know my family. I'm right outside the door of my son's kitchen, and I'm going to go in there and we're going to have a chat. You're going to meet my son. I'm going to ask him some questions about his career and about being my son, and we'll see what happens. So if you're interested, hang on, because I'm going to be right back and we're going to have a nice kitchen visit with my son.
Spring turns fast into fall, and I always wonder how I missed it all. I missed it all. Or something stronger. I can't stand to remember, even though I know it's just a phase.
Hello, son, and welcome home.
Thank
when
you.
I first came here, you were in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Then you and Heather went to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let me see, 2 days in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
You just got home for that. And I'm going to say goodbye to you. What next? The end of this week?
End of this week. You're missing Chicago. I was in Chicago
that's right,
this last
Chicago.
weekend. Yeah.
And now you're going this weekend where?
California.
California. For how many days?
3.
Oh, okay.
1 show, 3 days.
Oh, wow. Busy guy. I was thinking about you the other day and about my mother, and I remember she always used to tell me that you were writing songs when I think you were about 6 or 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she would run around behind you in the house
Mm-hmm.
writing down the lyrics, because you would never write anything down. You would just run around and sing a song. And she said that you were composing songs when you were that little.
Yeah, I did do that. I mean, I still do that. I still run around and I don't write things down sometimes, but I figure if I remember it, then it's worth it. Yeah, I have fond memories of that time staying at their place. There was a lot of, I got a guitar for Christmas. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like an old Sears silver tone or a Roy Rogers guitar. I wish I still had it.
Was it like a steel
It was steel string, but really the first time I wrote a song was on that 63 Yamaha gut string that was yours.
Oh, that was mine.
Yeah. So I think that the first song I wrote was called Wendy. I think it was about Wendy Van Zyl, who I'm still strangely friends with, which is amazing.
Oh, that's
all
funny.
these years later.
Really?
Yeah, she came to the show
Back
in Atlanta.
Ohio. No kidding.
Yeah, no, this is back in Jersey.
Oh, wow. Wow. I remember a song, just one song that you wrote. I think I have it somewhere, and I think you hand wrote it. It was about moving on down the highway or trucking or something like that.
It was about trucks. Yeah, I think that was Ohio. That was my truck period.
So you, yeah. Oh, shoot. You know, I want to ask you, where do your ideas come from when you write a song?
I don't really know. I mean, they kind of pop into my head. It depends on, it could be about myself, it could be about somebody I know, it could be about something I saw.
What about that one I think you told me, Lemon Parade?
That was about a dream. Yeah, sometimes they come from dreams. That's once in a while. But I think the older I've gotten and the more I've learned to kind of live inside of my craft, they more come from living. I mean, I think you have to live in order to write, and I think now every time I write, it's definitely about what I've lived through or what I've seen somebody live through.
You know, I think your first solo album, Cigarettes and Gasoline, honestly is one of my favorite songs, because your heart is really in that record. I mean, every single song I can identify with, because it was just so emotional. I think it was really you. That was your very first solo album. I love that one.
Yeah, that was a hard record to write, but easy in the way that it was exactly where I was in my life. I didn't have to go back too far. I just kind of, it just came out, you know.
Do you think writing somehow is a catharsis? Because I've talked on YouTube a lot about, you know, my husband and your dad and his illness and how it kind of affected all of us, but none of us could really talk about it for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think maybe that your music, certain songs that you've written, have been a catharsis, a way for you to express yourself?
Yeah, I mean, music is therapy. That's for sure. It might, I think sometimes maybe it touches on something that I don't fully understand, or maybe I don't want to think about. But there's no doubt that it's definitely a part of my process. I think when I'm done with a song, it helps me release a lot of things, and I think a lot of that old murky water that was floating around that time in our lives was bound to come out, and it just happened to come out in a song. So I would much rather that than have it come out somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that's true, because mine came out, you know, in writing, but I certainly couldn't write music or songs like you do. I'm just no way. You know, when you write, do you follow a formula, or is it just as words come into your head, you just put it down? And then, I mean, it's amazing to me that you put music and words together. I mean, to me, that's, I can't understand that, and it's amazing to me that somebody can actually do that, you know, because even Elton John, he has, Bernie Taupin writes the lyrics, or Elton John usually writes the song.
He writes the melodies, and Bernie
Yeah.
Taupin writes the lyrics, yeah.
Excuse me.
It usually comes with a melody. The melody comes first. I'll hear a melody in my head, or I'll be playing guitar and a melody will fall out, and then the melody just dictates what the words should be. I wish I could explain it better than that, but it's really just, that's what it is. It's a, you know, it's just melody and words. But the melody usually shows up first. The melody, 9 times out of 10, shows up first.
Well, you know, you started out your first record, you know, of course, went multi-platinum and everything, but with your band Tonic, and you then switched over, even though you still do Tonic, you also have a solo career. And I've watched your performances, and I find that you can express yourself, in my opinion, more in your solo shows. What is the difference in performing, like with Tonic and with your solo shows? One more intimate, or what?
I think intimate's definitely a word to use. It's definitely more intimate. I can take more time to tell stories behind the song. You know, it's a band thing. I mean, when you're playing rock and roll, it has a certain feel. I mean, it's just supposed to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
But I love your solo shows, especially because I love the stories that you tell, and I think people who follow you and on the internet, they always say, "Oh, I love your stories." You know, you always have a story behind each song. It seems, because that's what the impetus that started you maybe to even think about that. You know, you and Heather were in Paris last week, and I remember in 1997 when you were there with Tonic. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
We did 7 days, 7 shows at a club called Chesterfields, which I'm not sure if it's there anymore. I didn't even think to check. I probably should have. But yeah, and then on the last night when we were there was the night that Princess Diana got killed, just not too far from our hotel. We didn't realize what we had seen, but it wasn't until the next morning we went to London to shoot the video for Soldier's Daughter, which was a single in England. So Yeah, it was a hard time to be in London, that's for sure. The next morning was a very sad time.
When you
to be
stepped
there.
off the plane, could you smell all the flowers that the people were putting around?
It was the train,
Buckingham
actually.
Palace?
We took the Channel.
Oh,
We took
you
the
did?
Channel, and I think by the time she had not been pronounced dead at that point. Not that I can
Wow.
remember.
They probably didn't announce it. Maybe
Yeah,
she
they didn't.
was.
She was, but they didn't announce it
Yeah.
until we got to London, and then it was just flowers everywhere. And I just remember the smell of the city.
Wow. That really is prophetic. Because did you know at the time that the tunnel was kind of backed up and you didn't know what it was in Paris, or did you? Were
We
you
just,
aware?
I just remember seeing ambulances. That's all I remember seeing, and just, I was still super sick with the flu. I was very ill. We had come from Australia, and a lot of that memory is super spotty, but I just remember that moment.
Wow. Yeah, I'd like to have some of your travel miles, Emerson.
I've got a lot
You're
of them.
building them up really a lot. Okay, let's get back a little bit to. I know that your big sister Brett, when I wasn't aware of what was going on, she would sneak you into the clubs in New Jersey to see Springsteen and all of the rock bands. In that era, were there any rock bands back in the 80s that influenced you, or you feel like influences your music today?
I don't know. I mean, I was exposed to so much music. I don't know if I could pinpoint one band specifically. I mean, I had my bands. I loved Aerosmith. I loved Elton John. I loved Billy Joel.
What about the Eagles?
The Eagles. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was such a broad palette of music because Allison, my other sister's taste was, Mac Davis and super country.
Oh, yes.
And then Brett's was super new wave, hard rock. So I think I really started to figure it out for myself when I found my own bands. When I found U2, when I found The Police, when I found those bands and kind of owned them for myself. The Cure later on as I got older, just finding those bands that I loved. I think that really made the difference.
Do you think most songwriters and most musicians somewhere along the line have been influenced by other bands that they used to listen to, and maybe subconsciously
Yeah,
drives them?
Yeah,
Because I guess nothing's new under the sun.
What is the famous expression is that every artist is a camera and every poet is a thief. I mean, it's all.
Yeah, that's good. That's true.
It's all what what we're exposed to. I mean, I never intentionally went out to try to be somebody else, but we are, the ingredients of our heroes in many ways.
All right. What's next for you, my son? What's up in your future?
Solo record after the new year, probably, which is a concept record about the record so far is called 32,000 Days, which is 90 years. And it's kind of just about that journey. It's kind of inspired by your husband, by my stepfather, Arthur, about everything that somebody goes through in that time. I mean, obviously I can only cover it in 12 songs, so I try to amalgamate and combine and put all these things together about these different experiences in life and how my experiences are tied into those experiences. But it's going to be an interesting project.
It's going to be a little different genre too, isn't it?
It's more Americana. It's just more stripped down, I guess. I know that Americana is a strange word to use, but it's not a country record, so it's an acoustic record, but it's a little bit more than that because there is some instrumentation. So, but it's probably more Americana, I would say, I guess.
But I think the concept is brilliant. 32,000 days. I never thought of 90 years as being that many days. Mm-hmm. But I love that song. I mean, that's the song that I've heard. I haven't heard it mastered yet, but I just absolutely love that song so much. So, all right, I'm going to let you get about and do your work, but I love you and thank you so much for my little cottage. I'll say welcome home again after your trip back home from California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not complaining.
Yeah.
Not complaining.